So you can think of Starlink as filling in the gaps between 5G and fiber.
Almost the entire world has taken issue with Russian President Vladimir Putin's decision to invade neighboring Ukraine in an attempt to install a puppet government. Those with vast means have taken issue as well, including Elon Musk, who now has declared an all-out war on Russia. So how does he plan to handle Putin's regime with his near-bottomless resources? More than a week after Russia's invasion of Ukraine began, the billionaire has demonstrated that he unquestionably is a CEO in his own right, who doesn't compete on the same level as his colleagues. Even if a big number of companies have indicated that their operations and services in Russia will be suspended or terminated, the executives have not taken a stand in the Russo-Ukrainian war. Elon Musk has thus picked his side in the conflict between Russia and Ukraine and announced it to his 76 million Twitter followers. Elon Musk wrote on March 5th, "Hold strong, Ukraine," surrounded by 3 Ukrainian flags on the left and 3 more on the right. Musk also included a second message in which he expressed his sympathy to the great people of Russia who don't want this, in case there were any questions about his decision. Furthermore, he gave out guidelines and instructions on how to use Starlink effectively while being in the midst of land, air, and sea invasion. Mikhailo Fedorov, Ukraine's vice prime minister, has earlier pushed the billionaire on Twitter to step up and help in response to the Russian attack on communications infrastructure. Musk then cautioned that Russian hackers or bad actors are likely to target these Starlink terminals, saying, quote, "Important warning, Starlink is the only non-Russian communication system still working in some parts of Ukraine, so the probability of being targeted is high." Musk's SpaceX company's first consumer product, Starlink, is high-speed internet powered by a network of thousands of small, low-orbit satellites. It allows residents in places underserved by telecom companies to access the internet. Thousands of small satellites circle the Earth in low orbit, which is mostly 342 miles or 550 kilometers above the surface. The system also requires ground stations to communicate with satellites all across the world. With Starlinks being delivered to Ukraine, not only will regular Ukrainian citizens and journalists be able to update the world on the situation in real time, but Ukrainian armed forces can also make use of its capabilities. Although it's unconfirmed, it's important to note that an update on March 3rd enabled Ukrainians to use Starlink services on the move, which would be a godsend for military commanders in the field. Musk tweeted updating software to reduce peak power consumption so Starlink can be powered from a car cigarette lighter. Mobile roaming has been enabled, so phase array antenna can maintain signal while moving on a vehicle. Early warning of enemy movements and redeployments, gathering and communicating to the appropriate agency all intelligence information obtained on enemy forces, both through electronic and signal intelligence, and providing fast and effective communication links to own and friendly forces deployed against the enemy are some of the tasks that military-use satellites can be used for that have a direct impact on the operational capability of forces. All of these activities can be performed by ground-based systems. However, satellites have a distinct advantage over ground-based systems in that they can increase the coverage area internationally. Furthermore, the enemy would have a far harder time interfering with operational satellites than with intelligence-gathering infrastructure on the ground. Indeed, the Ukrainian armed forces, despite being heavily outnumbered and outgunned by the enemy, are putting up effective resistance. The Ukrainian Air Force is still functioning and capable of launching strikes, which has surprised military observers across the world because the Russian Air Force was expected to soon acquire total control of the skies. Elon Musk has many reasons to be furious with Vladimir Putin, but chief among them recently, his net worth was projected to be above $200 billion before the start of the war. Following that, the world stock markets were in chaos, with prices dropping in lockstep with the momentum. The price of Tesla's stock fell in lockstep with the rest of the market. Tesla's stock was trading at $834 when the market started on February 22nd, but fell to $831 on February 23rd, and has been in free fall since then. Therefore, it's easy to understand that there are several good reasons for him to launch himself in support of the Ukrainian war effort. The head of the Russian space effort, Dmitry Rogozin, took issue with Musk's support of Ukraine and the economic sanctions leveled against the state in general, saying, "In a situation like this, we can't supply the United States with our world's best rocket engines. Let them fly on something else. They're broomsticks. I don't know what." This was said on state Russian television. According to Rogozin, 122 RD-180 engines have been shipped to the United States during the 90s, with 98 having already been in NASA missions. Russia's decision comes after the United States and allies imposed a slew of economic penalties in the aftermath of their invasion of Ukraine. As you may be aware, since the start of the war, these sanctions have effectively decimated the Russian economy. Less than 24 hours after the announcement, Elon Musk rushed to Twitter to fire rhetorical missiles at the director of Russia's space agency. "American broomsticks," he tweeted, alongside a video of a recent SpaceX launch and a screenshot of words made by the president of the state space agency, implying that the United States could not get to space without Russian engines. He has a history with Rogozin, having previously spat with him over the latter's threat to international space stations, and even further back, his insults to SpaceX for being supported by NASA. It's not the first time Musk has injected himself into a global crisis to further his economic interests and cement his status as one of the world's most powerful individuals. As the coronavirus epidemic expanded around the world in early 2020, Musk declared that Tesla would begin producing ventilators to aid hospitals in their fight against COVID-19. SpaceX verified on March 4th that they had deployed 47 Starlink satellites to Ukraine. It's unknown whether more will be sent in the coming weeks. Even though Musk is opposing Russia, he's stuck to his morals, namely his utter belief in freedom of information. As a result, he's not joined information sanctions against Russia, and thereby hasn't deprived common Russians access to free information, and non-Russians of looking at Russian state perspectives as well. Despite requests from several governments, he declared that his company will not limit access to Russian media outlets on its Starlink internet infrastructure, saying, quote, "Starlink has been told by some governments to block Russian news sources. We will not do so unless at gunpoint." According to Newsweek, certain internet companies, such as Google and Microsoft, have worked to restrict Russian media channels, such as the state-run RT network and Sputnik. But Musk's statement hinted that Starlink would not block individual Russian news organizations. In his remarks, he apologized for being, quote, "a free speech absolutist." Either way, it must be noted that his opposition to Putin's invasion has seemingly got him saying things no one in their right mind would ever expect from him. As the most prominent example, he stated that global oil production needs to be increased because sustainable alternatives can't replace Russia's output. He advocated for an immediate raise in oil and gas production around the world. Musk stated on Twitter that he hated it, but we need to increase oil and gas output immediately, adding that extraordinary times demand extraordinary measures. Musk further explained that the prices of oil, gas, and their refined products, primarily gasoline, are rapidly rising, and sanctions against Russia have also hit the economies of other major countries hard, and sustainable energy solutions simply can't immediately compensate for Russian oil and gas exports. He went on to say that while rising oil and gas production will hurt Tesla, sustainable energy solutions can't react quickly enough to compensate for Russian oil and gas exports. We're entering highly uncertain times, and yet again, Musk finds himself in the thick of it. Let's see how it all plays out in the end. Tell us what you think by leaving a comment in the comment section below. Thanks!